Hi guys, welcome back to Poor Man's Barbecue. Today we're going to be making St. Louis cut spare ribs. These are pork ribs. I don't usually get these. They can be kind of expensive. I get them maybe 5 or 6 times a year, and that's really about it. But they were on special today. It's the manager's special, and I got these both for a great price. So I got two racks here, and each one of these one was like $11.50. The other was like a little over $10. That's a good price on ribs. But at any rate, so it's the St. Louis style. I don't usually do the baby backs. I think that they're a ripoff. They don't have an awful lot of meat on them, and they're twice the cost of these St. Louis cut. These have so much more meat, and I love them. If you do a competition or something like that, it's going to almost always be St. Louis cut. So these are actually trimmed up pretty nicely. They did a good job on these. Usually I have to trim a whole bunch off of them. But there's really only a few spots I got to trim today. So on the bottom here, we have two things I'm going to take off, and that's this little bit of extra here. Definitely don't need that. So let's just go ahead and take that right off. And again, you know, when you're using your knives, please make sure you use a very sharp knife. It makes life a heck of a lot easier for you. Now this can be used for something else. You could cook with it or whatever. It's a nice chunk of meat. I'm not keeping it. That's just going out in the trash. Now the next thing you need to do is you need to take, on the back side here, this whole thing here is a membrane. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. All of this white here, this is all of a membrane. And that needs to be removed because, number one, it's a tough chew. When you bite through it, it's just an awkward chew. And number two is it really blocks the smoke. You won't be able to get any penetration on the back side of this. So we want to go ahead and we want to take this off. So I've seen all kinds of ways to do this. And honestly, what I do is I just use a butter knife. I'll come into the corner of it, I go underneath that membrane, and I'll start to peel it back a little bit. Just get it started really. And it's slippery as all heck. I'm just going to tell you that right now. So the best way to grab this, I've got a little bit pulled off here. You can see that, I think, this little bit. I'm going to use a paper towel because it's honestly the best way to do this. So I just take a paper towel, kind of fold it up a little bit. This is going to give you a really good grip on this membrane. So that corner, you just peel it up, grab it with your paper towels, and gently pull. Don't be aggressive with it. And you might find that if you use your fingers and try and sort of pry it away as you're going, you'll have much better luck. I say that now, and I'm already struggling. But it peels off. It's like a piece of plastic almost. It just peels right off. You can see, there it goes. Missed some of it, but I'll come back and get that. We want to take all of this off, all the way down. Toss that right in the trash. That's good for nothing. You won't be eating that. Now I still have a little bit on here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this off. Just going to get underneath it. Sometimes getting underneath it is the tough part. Here we go. Okay. Get it going a little bit. And then paper towel. Paper towels are key on this, they really are. Alright, that's nice. That looks good. Alright, now I did see on the top of this, I was feeling that on the end here, this little bit hanging off. I don't want that. It's just going to shrivel up, get all burned. It's not going to be a good chew. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take that off. And what we're actually going to do is I'm just going to cut that whole rib section right out. We're going to make this nice and uniform. So I'll flip this over to do it so I can see the rib that I want to take out. And it's right here. I'm holding this because my cutting board's not big enough and I don't want it flopping all over my other surfaces. So let's go ahead and just remove that whole section right there. Beautiful. We'll just toss that. So that is a beautiful St. Louis cut spare rib, nicely trimmed. I think I'll do that one more time on this end. There's a little bit, actually I'll leave that, that's not so bad. I just don't want any floppies hanging off of it. I want it to look nice and uniform. That's a nice cut of meat. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get this, we're going to put a binder on it today. So I'm going to use yellow mustard as the binder. And just spread that around nicely. Want to get good coverage, you want to make sure you're covering your ends here. Get it nice and covered like this. Get your ends. Always make sure you get your ends. People forget to get their ends and then the rub will fall off in the smoker and they're going to wonder why. Flip it over, get your bottom. I'm doing the same thing. Plenty of mustard, just get it on there. Smear this around. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So now, so I don't have to flip it multiple times. I've already pre-mixed my dry rub here. And today, this is basically the same rub I use almost all the time. This is brown sugar, paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, cumin, black pepper, salt, and crushed pepper flakes for a little bit of heat. I've given the how much of each thing is in here before in other recipes. I'm not going to give it today. Honestly, mix up your own batch. Try it in different ways. Add more of this, add more of that. You're going to come up with a flavor that you like on your own. You don't necessarily have to go by the, my word is not the word of God on this. So, with this rub here, we're going to spread this pretty liberally. You want to get a nice coating on here. And don't be afraid to touch your food. Get in here and really get into it. You want to pat that down. And I made a lot of rub for this, honestly. And what we're going to end up doing is whatever's left over, we're going to use in our mop that I'm going to make for tomorrow. I am going to put these in the refrigerator overnight and let them hang out. They're going to sweat. All this dry rub is going to turn wet, and it's going to sweat. They're going to look like it's soaking wet. That's perfectly fine. That's what we're looking for. These will sit in the refrigerator overnight. That's going to allow this to really pick up a lot of the flavor from this rub. And it penetrates the meat a little bit, and it's going to give it a nice flavor. So let's just get this spread on here. And ribs are easy. I love doing ribs. They're just an easy thing to do. All right, now I'll bring you back when both of these are done. Guys, so these are all put together. Let's just give you a little peek. That's how they're going to look, nice and trimmed up. We're going to cover this in tin foil. I'm going to put this in the refrigerator overnight. Tomorrow morning I'll start the fire. These ribs, now they can be deceiving. They're thin. Some people will cook them at a real high heat and they'll be done in like an hour, hour and a half. I don't do that. I'm going to cook these at 250. These will take between 4 and 5 hours. And I'm going to show you how to tell when ribs are done. I don't use a probe on these. It's more about how they feel and how they bend. And I'll show you that tomorrow while they're in the smoker when they're getting ready to be pulled off. And tomorrow we'll also talk about whether or not we should wrap the ribs or not. I don't always wrap my ribs. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. A lot of it's going to depend on how quickly I'm trying to get them finished, if they seem like they're drying out, things like that. So there's a lot of different things that go into play there. I may wrap them in the smoker tomorrow, I may not. But at any rate, they'll be in the smoke for at least 3 hours tomorrow before I wrap them. So I'll bring you back tomorrow morning when we're getting ready to put these in the smoker. And we'll cook these all day long. It's going to, like I said, going to be about 6 hours. So we'll cook these all day. And that's it for this afternoon. But I'll see you tomorrow when we're getting ready to put these on the fire. Thanks. Alright guys, welcome back. It is now Sunday morning and we're ready to get these ribs in. And I'm also using this fire for another video I'm doing on shotgun shells, so you'll probably see a little bit of that as well. If you're watching the shotgun shells, you're going to see some ribs. But they'll be posted on their respective videos. At any rate, it is about 10:30 and today's a little chilly, but not too bad. It's about 34, so the smoke time will probably be a little bit longer today than normal, but that's okay. Anyways, let's get this fire started. Alright guys, so like I say in every video, always use paper bags to start your charcoal chimneys. Don't use accelerants. They'll make your food taste like the lighter fluid. I always use brown paper bags. They work great. They're a little smoky in the beginning, but that does calm down after a little bit. It's the way to go. I always use all hardwood charcoal to start the fire with. I don't ever use Kingsford or Matchlight or any of those. They do have non-hardwoods in them. The Matchlight has lighter fluid in it. This is a specialty charcoal that I bought at a small store, and this is actually all oak. All right, the fire's lit. Wait for this charcoal to turn down to coals, and then we'll add some wood to that. Alright guys, I just want to take a quick second here. I want to talk about cleaning your grates. As you can see, they do get kind of scummy. This is actually, all this is just creosote that fell off the top when I really heated this thing up last weekend when I was making that pizza. The temperature in here was very hot, and the creosote that's up there fell off out of there. I'm not worried about that, that's nothing. But these grates can get kind of dirty. And the thing about that is that, you know, if you're going to clean them, don't use any harsh chemicals or anything like that. Really, what I use is just white vinegar. I spray it on there, let it sit for a couple minutes. I'll come across it with a bronze brush, and then I'll spray it down one more time. But in general, I don't clean these all that often. The temperature inside the smoker gets hot enough that any kind of bacteria or any fungus or anything that might be growing in here is killed off each time. So it's really kind of your personal preference. But again, if you're going to clean it, just use the vinegar. Don't use any kind of solvents or aggressive cleaning agents.
Okay, the charcoal is ready to have wood put on it.
Alright, the fire's lit. Going pretty good down there. I want to give it about half an hour, 45 minutes. I want that temperature to stay at 250 consistently for about half an hour at least. And then I'll be throwing the ribs on, or the shotgun shells. Depends on which video you're watching. Alright guys, well the ribs are in the smoke, and the smoker is holding steady at a nice 250. So these could be anywhere between 4 to 6 hours. It's kind of tough to tell with ribs. I've had them gone real long, I've had them gone kind of short. It all depends on the rib itself, I guess. At any rate, I'm going to show you later on how we're going to tell if these are done or not without having to use a probe. And I'll show you how to check them with a probe as well. So anyways, I'll bring you back down in about an hour when I come down to mop these. Oh, and I just wanted to point out, so these are sitting in the refrigerator. You see how wet that is? That was dry last night. So that's the meat sweating, and now the rub looks soaking wet. But the good thing about this is that really allows a lot of the flavors from this rub to really soak into this meat. So we're going to have a nice flavor in this meat from this rub. So anyways, I'll see you guys back here in an hour.
And I forgot before we go, I just want to check the fire down here. We are hitting a beautiful 250. It's been sitting right at 250 now for about 40 minutes. So that's the perfect time to put the meats in, which I just did. I am going to stoke this with one log. I'm going to kind of move it around a little bit, expose some of these coals, make sure nothing gets covered up by ash. I'll throw one more log on, and that'll be good for about an hour.
All right, guys. Well, we're back down here. The ribs have been in the smoke for about an hour now. We're going to open it up. We're going to mop them. We're going to see how they look. All right, guys. Well, here they are, 1 hour in. They're already starting to get a little tiny bit of a bark. They smell good, and I mean, they're nowhere near ready to be eaten, but let's mop these up. I want to keep these nice and moist. I do have a water tray in there today, which I think is going to be very important. We want to keep everything nice and moist, and the water tray is going to do a good job of doing that. It helps kind of steam a little bit, keeps moisture in this cabinet. Oh boy, these are going to be good. Alright, I'm going to check the fire, and then I'll bring you guys back down in an hour. Alright guys, well here we are, 2 hours into the smoke. You can see we're starting to develop some bark here, especially on the ends. It's starting to build up. It's going to be another couple hours anyways. But we're getting that bark, and you can see down here we got some of the little bones starting to expose a little bit. Those are going to recede back quite a bit, and you can see it's only on that one. This one might finish off a little bit before the other one does. But that's alright. I'm going to mop this up, close her back up, throw some wood on the fire, and come back down again in an hour. I'll see you then. Alright guys, here we are. We are at 3 hours, and they're looking pretty damn good. I would go ahead and say that these are probably pretty close to being done. And I'm going to go ahead
And I'm gonna do my little bend test on these. So I was telling you before that I wanted to show you ways of doing this to check for doneness without having to use a probe. And if it just splits a little bit, not quite. They're close, but not quite. Let's check this one. This one I thought was probably going to finish off a little quicker. Let's try this one and see. And this one also is not quite done. So what they'll do is they'll actually split a little bit. When they split, that means they're done. But, sorry, for shits and giggles, let's put a probe in here. I want to see what it comes up for temperature on this. I'm all tangled. Okay, let's see what we see on the door here. And we are saying 193. Well, you know, I want to go ahead and say that those are pretty much done. Let's pull them off and we'll bring them in. There you guys. Those ribs are done. I'm gonna take, well, here we are. The finished product, looking delicious. Beautiful bark. They smell unbelievable. It's got a nice sweet coating on there. These are gonna be great. I'm gonna cut them up. I'm gonna show you how juicy they are, and then I'm gonna eat. All right? Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna cut these. Oh yeah. Oh, let's look at this. That is beautiful. And juicy. Yeah, and try a bite. Oh, it's a perfect bite. This is delicious. Absolutely delicious. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.